The year is 1944. The Eastern Front was turning into a blood-soaked retreat for the Wehrmacht. But even as the Red Army advanced, a shadow war was being fought far behind the front lines, a technological struggle for resources so vital they were classified above Hitler's direct command. This is the truth behind Operation Chronos, a mission so obscure, so devastatingly secret, that the entire SS Engineering Brigade assigned to it was liquidated from the records, declared non-existent by 1945. The mission centered on occupied Ukraine, specifically the dense, marshy forests near Zhytomyr, a region of no conventional strategic value. Their target was not a city or a true concentration, but a long-abandoned, flooded mine complex. The unit, the SS Technische Brigade 102, was unique. It was comprised of mining engineers, geological specialists, and high-security demolition experts, all operating directly under the authority of the Reich Ministry of Armaments and War Production, bypassing the standard chain of command. Their single, urgent objective: to extract a mineral known only by its internal codename, Element Z. This mineral, never identified in any open-source geological survey, was deemed essential for the most ambitious Nazi project of the war, the Amerikabomber, a proposed intercontinental strategic bomber capable of striking New York. The true nature of Element Z is revealed in a series of mutilated and barely legible chemical analysis reports found amongst the seized papers of the Luftverkehrsanstalt, Aeronautical Research Institute. The reports, labeled Project Schnellflug Z-Stoff, confirm that Element Z was not used for explosive power or armor plating. Its properties were far more subtle and technologically complex. The analysis suggests that Element Z possessed an unprecedented thermal stability and a unique electromagnetic damping capability. The Nazis believed this mineral, once synthesized into specialized alloys, could withstand the extreme kinetic and thermal stresses required for sustained hypersonic flight. The key technological hurdle for the Amerikabomber, the proposed V3 supercannon project. The engineers theorized that Element Z would reduce air friction and heat buildup at Mach 5 and above, essentially allowing a vehicle to punch through the atmosphere without burning up. The frantic timeline, coupled with the commitment of an entire SS brigade to this remote, swampy Ukrainian location, underscores the desperation of the Reich to achieve a technological wonderwaff. The mine complex near Zhytomyr was chosen because historical German geological surveys from the early 20th century, later absorbed by the SS, indicated a localized, dense seam of this highly unusual ore. This was not a random dig. It was a targeted extraction based on forgotten, proprietary science. The logistical difficulties of Operation Chronos were immense, and the official records fail to account for the specialized equipment used. We have only fragmented manifests listing unusually heavy drilling equipment and a large quantity of sealed lead-lined transport containers. These lead linings are highly significant. Lead is typically used to shield against gamma radiation, but Element Z was a mineral, not a known radioactive source. This implies two things. Either Element Z had a previously unknown form of radiation, or the SS were shielding the mineral from external electromagnetic interference, which could potentially disrupt its unique properties before it reached the synthesis labs. The secrecy surrounding the transport logistics was almost absolute. The SS Technische Brigade 102 was completely cut off, operating under radio silence, receiving supplies only via specially routed Luftwaffe flights that dropped cargo near the mine head. This isolation was a deliberate tactic to prevent any leaks to the advancing Soviets about the nature of the resource. The most crucial piece of evidence from this phase is a small, blood-stained map fragment recovered by Polish partisans near the front in 1945. It is a crude hand-drawn sketch of the mine complex, with one specific shaft marked with a jagged, lightning-like symbol and the German word, "Kein Halt," no stop, or do not enter. This shaft was the source of Element Z, and the stark warnings suggest the brigade encountered a threat far greater than expected, one related to the mineral itself. The threat inside the mine became tragically clear in a single, surviving NKVD counterintelligence report dated June 1944. The Red Army was closing in on Zhytomyr, and a small NKVD reconnaissance team was tasked with surveying the hastily abandoned German positions. They reported finding the main camp of the SS Brigade 102 completely intact and seemingly abandoned in a state of high readiness. Half-eaten meals, tools laid out, vehicles fueled. It was not a retreat. It was an instantaneous disappearance. The NKVD team then cautiously entered the mine shaft. The counterintelligence report, initially filed as a simple scouting mission, was immediately recalled and classified top-level upon review in Moscow. The team leader, Commissar Grigory Volkov, described the interior of the primary shaft in chilling detail. He noted an unbearable, low-frequency hum emanating from the deep levels, causing immediate vertigo and severe nausea in his men. More crucially, he found a scene of absolute, non-conventional chaos. The German engineers did not appear to have been shot or killed by a cave-in. Volkov wrote, "The bodies were intact, but the metal tools they carried, the helmets, the spades, all of it had been subjected to a massive directional impact. It was as if a physical wave had swept through the tunnel, crushing the metallic objects while leaving the organic material, the men's flesh and clothing, relatively whole." This is the first indication that Element Z was not merely a passive thermal shield, but that its extraction process was linked to a localized, devastating kinetic force. The phenomenon witnessed by the NKVD team suggests a mechanical, or perhaps acoustic, catastrophe related directly to the mineral. The NKVD report noted that the men's metallic equipment was crushed, but their organic material was spared. This impossible selectivity points towards a highly focused, resonant vibration, possibly caused by the unstable nature of Element Z itself when subjected to the high-frequency drilling required for its extraction. Further examination of Volkov's final debriefing, recovered from the KGB archives after 1991, revealed his conclusion. The Germans had tapped into a naturally occurring, unstable resonant field within the mine. Element Z, when disturbed, amplified this field, turning the mine shaft into a directional sonic weapon that instantly pulverized high-density materials, metal, while bypassing low-density materials, flesh and clothing. The SS Technisch Brigade 102 was not attacked by the Soviets. They were victims of their own geological hubris, annihilated by the feedback loop of the resource they sought to exploit. Volkov's report ends with a stark warning. The mineral is a weapon. The site must be liquidated. The Soviets, realizing the lethal potential of the resource, not only ordered the mine to be instantly collapsed and flooded, but also initiated a complete historical erasure of the entire Zhytomyr region incident from all operational logs. Operation Chronos was not a failure of German logistics. It was a catastrophic failure of German physics, resulting in the instant, selective destruction of an entire elite unit by the very element that was supposed to save the Reich. The SS Brigade 102 vanished, declared casualties of unspecified enemy action. In the fog of war, a lie established to conceal the terrifying existence of Element Z. The initial NKVD report, detailing the silent annihilation of the SS Technisch Brigade 102 near Zhytomyr, marked only the beginning of the Soviet involvement. The subsequent liquidation of the mine site, ordered by Moscow, was not a simple demolition. It was a highly complex, covert operation codenamed Object Liquidator. Its objective was twofold: eliminate all physical evidence of Element Z's existence and, crucially, understand the mechanics of the directional sonic collapse witnessed by Commissar Volkov. The Soviets recognized the potential of this phenomenon, a weapon that could selectively destroy high-density targets, tanks, bunkers, while leaving organic material intact. The NKVD brought in its own team of specialized physicists, replacing the military command. Their findings, contained in a document labeled Element Z, Resonance Control, confirmed the terrifying hypothesis. Element Z possessed the ability to act as a natural frequency amplifier. When subjected to the high-frequency vibrations of German drilling equipment, The mineral amplified the sound wave until it reached its destructive resonant frequency against metallic compounds, creating a super-focused hyperacoustic wave. This wave, traveling along the tight confines of the mine shaft, instantly crushed the metal gear carried by the German engineers, who were, in a grim irony, killed not by enemy fire, but by the instantaneous pressure change of the metal being ripped from their bodies. The true danger, however, was in the mineral's instability. The Soviet scientists determined that the spontaneous collapse that killed the German brigade was a natural, unmanaged feedback loop. If element Z could be extracted safely and its resonant properties controlled, it could be synthesized into the perfect stealth material, confirming the Nazi objective for the Amerikabomber. But the Soviet focus was different: weaponization. The NKVD immediately deployed resources to locate all previous German geological surveys relating to Zhytomyr. They quickly discovered that the SS had not been mining randomly. The area was a vast, naturally occurring resonance zone, and the mine shaft was located at a specific nodal point where element Z was most concentrated and, therefore, most volatile. The problem was extraction. The NKVD attempted several remote-controlled mining operations, all of which resulted in the instantaneous, unexplained destruction of the specialized Soviet drilling equipment, a chilling confirmation of the selective kinetic force. The Soviets were forced to concede that element Z could not be safely extracted with 1940s technology. The solution was not to continue mining, but to seal the entire resonance zone, turning the geological anomaly into a permanent, localized black hole of technological denial. The aftermath of Operation Chronos directly informed a massive, highly secretive Allied operation known only as Project Scythe. The US and British intelligence had monitored the unusual, rapid shift in Soviet activity around Zhytomyr. They knew the Germans had found something significant, and they recognized the deliberate, high-level erasure conducted by the NKVD. Project Scythe's objective was to confirm the nature of the mineral the Nazis were pursuing. The intelligence breakthrough came from a highly compromised source: a captured German pilot who had flown supply drops to the Zhytomyr minehead. His debriefing mentioned one detail the NKVD had overlooked. The Germans had managed to successfully extract and transport a single, small lead-line cylinder filled with element Z before the catastrophic collapse. This sample was intended for the final synthesis laboratory in the Reich. The pilot stated the cylinder was loaded onto a specialized armored transport heading west, but was intercepted and lost during a Polish partisan attack. This single, missing sample became the holy grail of Allied intelligence. If the Allies could recover this sample, they could reverse engineer the Amerikabomber material and, crucially, understand the Soviet interest. The recovery of the element Z sample became the focus of a desperate, multinational hunt. The search led to the Polish underground resistance. The Polish Home Army had indeed successfully ambushed the German transport carrying the lead cylinder, believing it contained gold or high-value documents. However, after the skirmish, they discovered the lead cylinder and, mystified by its weight and lack of military value, buried it in a shallow grave near the town of Lublin. The existence of this buried sample was revealed to the Allies only through a treacherous exchange of intelligence. The OSS, Office of Strategic Services, initiated a deep cover operation, Operation Chimera, to locate the sample before either the Soviets or the remaining German remnants could retrieve it. The urgency was palpable. The single-element Z sample was not just a material. It was the only physical proof of the Amerikabomber's technological viability and the terrifying kinetic properties of the resource. The race was now on between the OSS and the NKVD to dig up a single lead cylinder buried in the muddy ground of occupied Poland. The final, devastating twist of Operation Chronos lies in the Polish retrieval. The OSS team, using coordinates provided by the resistance, located the shallow grave. They found the heavy lead cylinder exactly where it was buried. But when they attempted to lift it, the NKVD, who had been simultaneously tracking the German transport and the Polish resistance, intervened. The ensuing firefight near Lublin was a silent, undeclared battle between the Americans and the Soviets over a single lead container. The result was catastrophic. The lead cylinder, subjected to the high-caliber gunfire, was breached. The NKVD report on the incident, recovered from the KGB archives, states that the moment the casing was penetrated, the element Z inside instantly destabilized. A localized, intense, resonant pulse erupted from a breach. The report describes the immediate, selective destruction of all metallic objects within a 20-meter radius. Guns, helmets, vehicle engine blocks, and radios were instantly pulverized, leaving the human combatants who carried them in a state of deep shock and severe, non-fatal internal injury from the massive pressure change. This was a smaller, more localized replication of the Zhytomyr mine disaster. The OSS and NKVD personnel, temporarily neutralized by the non-lethal, selective force, both retreated, leaving the cylinder and the element Z sample scattered in the Polish mud. The single, most valuable scientific asset of the late war was destroyed not by Allied victory, but by a simple firefight. This disaster cemented the mutual agreement to erase all evidence of element Z. The Allies erased it to cover up the humiliating loss and the terrifying, uncontrollable nature of the mineral. The Soviets erased it because they knew the material was too unstable to control and that the technology was a dead end. The catastrophic, localized pulse that destroyed the element Z sample near Lublin ultimately served as the final piece of intelligence for both the US and the USSR. Both powers now fully understood the mineral selective, resonant danger, and the technological dead end it represented. The immediate aftermath was a fierce, undeclared cleanup campaign. The Soviets, determined to prevent any foreign entity from analyzing the residual effects of the pulse, dispatched special chemical teams to neutralize the site. Their primary objective, outlined in NKVD Directive 33A, was to use specialized agents to vitrify the mud and soil around the breach site, effectively creating a permanent, inert seal over the scattered element Z fragments. This process, documented in grainy, low-quality NKVD field photographs, involved pouring quick-setting chemical compounds over the pulverized metal debris in the ground, turning the entire 20-meter radius into a hard, unnatural geological feature, a silent monument to the failed extraction. This explains why, years later, local Polish farmers reported an oddly hard, barren patch of land near Lublin, a direct result of a top-secret technological shootout between the world's emerging superpowers. The complete historical obliteration of the incident by the Soviets was paramount, ensuring that the entire affair vanished into the dust of the Eastern Front's chaotic close. The fate of the SS Technische Brigade 102, the entire unit wiped out in the Zhytomyr mine, was the subject of the final internal German post-mortem on Operation Chronos. A surviving high-level SS logistics report filed under Unfallbericht S-102 Accident Report S-102 confirms the official cause of death as technical geological failure. But the annex to this report, marked Physik Analyse, Element Z, contained a truly unsettling conclusion. The SS scientists determined that the resonant pulse was so rapid and focused that it caused a momentary localized vacuum within the metallic objects, pulling the air out of the metal's crystalline structure. This not only crushed the metal, but also created a deadly, localized pressure inversion that instantly incapacitated the soldiers. The report recommended that all existing geological surveys referencing element Z or the Zhytomyr resonance zone be immediately destroyed or falsified. This final German action, the internal admission of a physics catastrophe and the subsequent destruction of the data, was the last nail in the coffin of Operation Chronos. The Nazis were not hiding their defeat. They were hiding the existence of a material whose potential was outweighed only by its uncontrollable, self-destructive nature. The very mineral that was supposed to deliver the Amerikabomber became the instrument of the entire unit's instant, silent demise. The impact of Operation Chronos extended directly into the early U.S. aerospace research, confirming the lasting technological fear inspired by element Z. While the physical sample was destroyed, the intelligence gathered from Volkov's report and the Lublin incident was highly valued. This information led directly to the creation of the secret U.S. Air Force research program, Project Aurora, dedicated to high-Mach flight and exotic materials research. The early documentation for Project Aurora includes a heavily redacted section on acoustic damping requirements for hypersonic lift, which explicitly references the Zhytomyr anomaly as a negative case study. This shows that the U.S. was not trying to replicate the material, but rather desperately trying to design materials that were immune to such destructive resonant frequencies. The nightmare scenario for the U.S. was the possibility that the Soviets, using their superior geological data from the seized German archives, might locate a stable source of element Z and integrate it into their own hypersonic weapons program, potentially making U.S. radar and high-speed aircraft structurally vulnerable to a targeted sonic attack. The existence of the lost SS Brigade and their annihilation fueled decades of highly classified U.S. materials science research. The true scale of the Soviet cover-up and the strategic paranoia it created is demonstrated by a little-known Soviet geological project in the 1960s. After sealing the Zhytomyr mine, the Soviets launched a massive, multi-year geophysical survey of the entire surrounding region, codenamed Project Tishina, Project Silence. This was not a resource extraction effort. Its sole purpose was to identify, map, and catalog every single naturally occurring resonance zone in the western USSR. The goal was to ensure no other area contained a critical concentration of element Z that could be accidentally discovered or, worse, exploited by a hostile power. The final map, generated by Project Tishina, portions of which were only revealed decades later, is a dense network of geological exclusion zones, all marked with the ominous internal stamp, Gefahrlich, unbetretbar, dangerous, no entry, using the original German terminology from the SS reports. The Soviets spent 2 decades and immense resources simply making sure no one, not even their own people, stumbled upon another source of the mineral that had instantly crushed the metallic equipment of an elite German brigade. This effort confirms that the technological threat posed by Element Z was not localized to 1944, but was considered a persistent global danger. The final, suppressed truth of Operation Chronos is that its failure was not a military event, but a profound scientific trauma that established a new boundary for advanced weapons research. The entire episode, the lost SS Brigade, the frantic extraction, the selective destruction of metal, and the chaotic firefight in Poland, was erased because it proved that the race for the Wunderwaffe had crossed a line, tapping into a natural, geological phenomenon that was uncontrollable and self-defeating. The British and Americans concealed their failure to secure the sample and their subsequent fear of resonant warfare. The Soviets, the final custodians of the secret, concealed the existence of Element Z to prevent its accidental rediscovery and the massive global panic that would ensue if the world knew a naturally occurring mineral could selectively destroy all technology at the speed of sound. The SS Technische Brigade 102 are the silent martyrs of this technological taboo, buried beneath the mud of the Eastern Front. Their only memorial, the vast, unspoken geological exclusion zones maintained by their former enemies. This is the story of a mineral that erased a unit and a secret that erased itself from history. What do you think? Was this a military breakthrough or an operation they erased on purpose?